Well, hello again everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Classic Dirt Bike TV, where we take a very brief look at a few of those scrambling Pastmasters from back in the day, and these are just a few that I captured at the Classic Motocross De Nations in 2015. And these were just a few of the racing legends that used to entertain us on TV from way back in 1960s. Number 14 there, looking at, of course, Bill Gwynne, another famous legend from that particular era, sitting astride a lovely old Dot Scrambler. And Bill, of course, just one of the many great riders that Britain produced in the 1960s for those old BBC grandstand winter scrambles. Now in the red there, that's Rob Griffis. Rob appears to be lending his tribsaw to one of the scrambling Pastmasters, whose name actually escapes me at this minute, but if you do recognise him, then please leave the name in the comment section below this video. But a nice jumper anyway for this guy. Now, two riders here who need no introduction whatsoever, the famous Rickman brothers of Don and Derek Rickman, original builders of course of all of your old Rickman frame kits. But again, these were very successful racers in their day before they turned their hands to making motorcycles, and in this picture we can see Derek mounted on one of his Rickman chassis, which looks like it has an old BSA Gold Star motor in it. Now yet again another famous name here, number 4 there, that's of course Jeff Smith, one of the great British racers from the golden era of what was then called scrambling. And in this video still picture we can see Jeff in conversation with Derek Rickman. And of course these were the guys who kept us all entertained in the early 1960s when you'd switch on your TV to see those guys racing in those very muddy scramble events from the BBC grandstand winter motocross events, which were live on TV and attracted thousands of spectators. And in that BBC programme you'd see the likes of Derek Rickman, Jeff Smith, Dave Bickers, Brian Goss, Vic Eastwood, and the likes of Brian Clough, all up to their armpits in mud, riding these old BSA's Triumphs and Greaves bikes. But it was all very good stuff and great to watch, and was also a good earner for the BBC, because when other big sports like football were being cancelled because of the bad weather, you were almost guaranteed that there would be a muddy motorcycle scramble on somewhere, and the TV took full advantage of that and broadcast it live on a Saturday afternoon. And if you're of a certain age, you'll remember watching that grainy black and white footage and seeing these guys thundering around the track. But it was good to see a few of them back out here once more at the Classic Motocross De Nations, because it's not every day that you get the likes of Jeff Smith and the rest of these guys together in one place. Now there's another legend from the past, the great John Giles, sitting astride his old Triumph, another racing icon from that era. But this is the trophy that these legends would have been racing for at that time in the 1960s, the BBC Grandstand Winter Scrambles trophy. And in the 1960s this would have been a very coveted piece of silverware, and if you were lucky enough to win one, then you were in a very elite club of winners, because not everyone had the opportunity, and these were won by the very cream of British scrambling back in the day. Of course, if you were as good as this man here, Alan Clough, then you were in that elite club, and Alan's pictured here with his trophy after winning the 250cc class. And so as the Scrambles legends make their way to start their Pastmasters parade lap, it was still a good opportunity for the crowd to get some pictures of these iconic Scrambles racers, and who, it has to be said, were mounted on very similar machines to the ones that they rode at the time, like this lovely Rickman bike ridden by Derek Rickman. Now, John Giles here again, who was another iconic racer, and he used to buddy up with the great Steve McQueen and Bud Ekins to go racing at motorcycle events all over Europe in the 1960s and 70s, and I actually had the chance to meet John in 2016 and did a short interview with him in the paddock at a race event, and some of the things himself, Steve and Bud Ekins, got up to while travelling together were great stories to hear. But John was a hardened Triumph man, and he loved his Triumph twins, and maybe that's another reason that the three of them got together, because of their love of Triumph motorbikes. Number 4 there is Jeff Smith, another of the top racers from that time, who I think started as a trials rider, as I remember, and he had many successes riding for the BSA factory on a trials bike, and then I think BSA asked him to try his hand at scrambling, which he was of course hugely successful at, and went on to win the World 500cc Championship in 1964 and 1965, and he eventually retired from competitive racing in 1972, but certainly one of the great names of our sport from that fantastic golden era. Number 14 is Bill Gwynne again, here riding what looks like a nice little dot scrambler. And once again, Bill was another of the racers who entertained us all in the 1960s, and in his teen years he was a works rider for Griffis, as I remember, and he won the Welsh Championship in 1957, 58 and 59. But Bill eventually moved on to racing on four wheels and set up his Bill Gwynne Rally School International in 1982, which is still claimed to be the world's first ever purpose-built school to teach rallycross. Number 22 there, another one of the racing icons from back in the day. That's Dave Curtis riding a matchless machine, and as you remember, Dave used to ride for the Matchless Company back in the day. Don Rickman this time, of course, riding one of their own Rickman creations, as you'd expect. But it was great for me just to see these guys on the day and get a glimpse of some of these racing legends that I used to watch on the old black and white TV, listening, of course, to the superb voice commentary by the mighty Murray Walker. But to see the likes of Dave Curtis and many more of these guys was certainly something that you don't get the opportunity to do every day, and I'm just glad that I was there to grab these few pictures of the great riders from the past. And heroes such as Bill Gwynne and many more who are sadly no longer with us did plant the seeds for the many kids who watched them on TV back then, and who of course would then go on to emulate their heroes by building makeshift tracks in their back garden for their push bikes before moving on to proper dirt bike motorcycles in their adult years. But the likes of Jeff Smith, Brian Goss, the Rickman brothers, Dave Bickers, Alan Clough and John Giles and many more of these latter day superstars certainly made an impact on not just myself but the millions more youngsters who then went on to spend the rest of their lives being involved in the sport that we love.